projection.
It's Friday afternoon, and you know what that means? It means that we're late getting the Alabama Slam podcast up and running this week. We apologize, guys. We've been working real hard. My name's Corey Hanna.
What's up, guys? It's Patrick Akers.
And, we apologize for being late. We had some work issues yesterday, and we were gone since about 5:45 a.m. this morning and just got back. It is about 4 o'clock p.m., and we're going to get this released as quickly as we can this afternoon. So let's jump right into it. Patrick wants to jump in and talk about some WWE happenings from last week. I watched a little bit of SmackDown myself in anticipation. I thought Bray Wyatt was going to be back Friday with all the White Rabbit teases, and they fucked me.
They're keeping it going. They're just teasing you.
Yeah, but I didn't
just
appreciate
teasing
it.
you.
09230923 had me. So I was watching, and they went to fucking break, and I texted Patrick. I said, "Hey, what happened? Why are they in a goddamn commercial break? I thought this White Rabbit shit was happening at 9:23, which would have been 8:23 Central our time." And he said, "Bro, you missed it. There was a QR code already in the background."
Yep. So they're running with these QR codes. I think this is brilliant. This is absolutely fantastic stuff.
It's real smart. Whoever's in charge of it.
Absolutely, it's smart, and it just goes to show that like the audience will work for what you give them if what you're giving them is something interesting.
Sure.
Like I think the old regime of the WWE maybe force-fed a lot of stuff to the audience, or maybe thought that they had to over-explain things to the audience. And it's like, no, you can literally just put a QR code up, not even mention it on the broadcast, and somebody's going to have that bitch scanned and up on the internet in 5 minutes. And now you have all these crazy fan theories, you know. My gosh, it's run through the gamut. Some people thought it was Edge, and then Edge came back, and some people looked into like some code and saw that it was Aleister Black's theme music, and of course we know what he's doing now with AEW, so they're like, is he going to come back? Here's the thing, though. They've booked himself into a pickle because it literally has to be Bray Wyatt, or it's going to be a disappointment.
Yeah, everybody's going to be pissed if it ain't. And
I think it will be. I mean, right? Don't you think?
It's got to be.
This is, boy, if it's anybody but, I'm going to laugh so hard because that's such a miscalculation of what you think people were going to be expecting.
Yeah.
And what they'll be able to put up with.
Because wasn't one of the clues last week you said there was like something about two things in one city, and one of them was something about a hotel by Wyndham or something?
Yeah, so one of the zip codes of the latest one was, and they'll, SmackDown will be on tonight, so chances are there's probably something else that'll be up there. But I think the one that had the Corbin, Kentucky, Corbin is, I think somebody found out, was the last opponent that Bray Wyatt had before he turned into the Fiend. And then when you look at what's in Corbin, Kentucky, there's a White Rabbit Records, and there's some kind of a Wyndham, like a Baymont by Wyndham, like the Wyndham hotel chains.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Bray Wyatt's real name, Wyndham Rotunda, so all signs point to that. It has to be him because he's the only type of guy that you would feel like puts this much emphasis into his character and has been like literally just sitting there thinking about what to do and how to make this cool. So, but, just this idea, I mean, playing the music at the live events before anybody knew anything, not saying anything on the broadcast, putting a QR code up, like, it's ingenious level stuff that, whenever he comes walking down the ramp, whether if it's at Extreme Rules here in the next couple weeks, if it's at Survivor Series, however long they stretch. It
sure as fuck wasn't it 8:23 on 9:23 last week. My ass was watching.
It was a good SmackDown show.
Yeah,
though.
it was fun. It was fun. I did tune in, and I texted you. I was like, "Well, I just tuned in and saw fucking Braun Strowman power slam Otis, so that was fun."
So see, they got you. Like that's how they get you.
I was in.
So like,
and then I watched the Honorary Uce.
And that's what we'll talk about next. Yeah, so the White Rabbit stuff is fantastic. But the best thing happening in wrestling right now is the Honorary Uce, Sami Zayn, and his affiliation with the Bloodline. This is like the reason I want to talk about this first, and the reason we're starting. I think this is the first time we've ever started the podcast in 19-something episodes with WWE. Other than the Vince
like
shit.
rumors and news and shit.
Because SmackDown right now is the best wrestling program currently running, and Sami Zayn is the best professional wrestler in the world right now because he has made literally everybody care about this storyline. Like, if you boil this down, if it's not executed properly, this is the dumbest, hokiest, corniest shit on television. Instead, it's the most compelling. It's the funniest. It's potentially going to be heartbreaking when the turn finally happens and the Bloodline does turn on Sami Zayn and kick him out. But, like, that opening segment, however long it was, I don't know if there was a better piece of television across any kind of genre, be it professional wrestling, drama, comedy, anything, in the world last week than that opening segment.
So I missed the opening because I didn't tune in until a little after 8. So what happened in the opening?
They've set up everything. So, like, Paul Heyman got the mic. Here's what you have to need the context behind this. Everybody believes that it's probably going to be Roman Reigns versus The Rock at WrestleMania.
I mean, they've been setting it up for 2 years.
They've been setting it up. So Paul Heyman gets on the mic. He puts over Roman Reigns being the champion. He puts over Solo Sikoa, saying that, like, the elders sent him to ensure Roman's title reign continues. So that's a cool little wrinkle in it. Like, the elders, like, we all know the Samoan legacy in professional wrestling. So if they do, at some point here before WrestleMania debut, like this elder Samoan council, like, that's going to be a cool gimmick. But they put over Solo. He acknowledges Roman Reigns. Obviously, they go to turn away. Sami grabs the mic to just a huge applause. I mean, you want to talk about, like, is he a heel right now? Not really. Like, he's in a heel group, I guess, if you want to put it that. But, like, the audience is chanting for Roman Reigns. Like, Sami may be aligned with the heel group, but he's not a heel. Like, he is a babyface through and through. And, of course, Sami gets on the mic and does his thing, and then you see the turn, the Roman being like, why are you talking? Take the shirt off. And it's like, we don't talk a lot about someone's acting ability in wrestling. Like, we talk about, they're good at doing the moves, they're a good promo, all this sort of stuff, but, like, you do kind of have to be a good actor. And so when Roman looks at Sami and just smiles, it's like, why are you talking right now? And the whole energy turns. And that building was just like, please don't do it. Like, don't do this now. And he tells him to take off the shirt. And Jey Uso is just on his level of acting ability right now is on another level. He is like a crazed lunatic. He rips the shirt off of Sami. Sami's standing there looking like a defeated, kicked puppy. And then the moment when Roman throws him the shirt, says, you ain't never going to wear that Bloodline shirt again because I got you a new one. And it says Honorary Uce. Like, again, like, this should not be as good as what it is. Just in a nutshell, right? If you just laid it out like, yeah, Sami with Roman Reigns, like, and this is what it's going to be. But it's, like, fantastic.
So who was backstage and was like, I think I got a good idea?
I don't know whoever's idea this was and who has shepherded this thing. Because this is for months now they've built this story up. And they have just done it at each individual thing. They've added wrinkle after wrinkle. I mean, the Bloodline stuff with Roman Reigns has been going on for 2 years now.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, like, the who was like, I don't know. I think we should make Sami Zayn an honorary Uce.
Whoever. It is A+, fantastic. It got me thinking, though, like, after this whole segment, and this has been universally loved. Like, everybody on wrestling Twitter has talked about this segment because it's been that good. Like, I mentioned before we started talking, the expectation is that we're going to do Roman versus The Rock at WrestleMania, right? But with this being a new regime, the Triple H era, whatever you want to call it, if the old era of WWE in the past, say, 10 years has been characterized by these storylines and these characters that people really love and invest a lot of time in, being chopped off at the knees for a Brock Lesnar to return or a Goldberg or anything like this. Why would this new regime not want to put a stop to that? Like why are we not just going to do Roman and Sammy at WrestleMania? Like, that should headline WrestleMania, right? This is the best thing that WWE has going. I'm not really interested in seeing Roman Reigns versus The Rock personally. But if Roman's reign of at the top here, if it's going to be toppled by anybody, that is a prime moment to turn somebody into a mega superstar. Let it just be Sami Zayn. Roman versus Sami at WrestleMania. Sami Zayn. I don't think
WWE's got the balls to try that right now.
But why not though? Then this is no different than what we've done in the past. What Vince McMahon has done in the past decade. True. Other than the fact that, you know, it's got kind of like a different coat of paint on it, and there's better matches during the week. But, like, if we're still just going to do the equivalent of, like, Kevin Owens getting beat by Goldberg in terms of, like, Roman and The Rock is just going to happen, and we're going to just bypass this story that we've been telling for months. That's been not only the best thing in our programming, but the best thing in wrestling, period. Like, that seems like a complete missed opportunity, and it seems like it's not really that much different than where we've been in the past.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't think they'll do it personally. I mean, they could, and it would be a smart move. But I mean, the moneymaker, for if you want to call it that, is going to be having The Rock face Roman at Mania, because Mania is supposed to be your biggest event of the year. I mean, maybe they could do the Rock and Roman at Mania and then turn around and let SummerSlam happen and then do Sami Zayn. Because people that don't typically watch wrestling might tune in and watch Mania, right?
Right. I don't know, man. I'm just, like I said, it is, you know, seeing the runs of like Big E and Kofi Kingston and Kevin Owens and The Fiend, like all these championship runs just die at the hands of like these either part-time guys or it just, if that's what the old administration was doing, it seems like you have a good opportunity here to run in a different direction. Change the game. Like, if you're going to say that this is different, then we actually need to be different. It can't just be that, oh, you know, Monday and Friday, the match qualities are better, and we let guys wrestle for 5 more minutes. You know, it actually needs to be something different, and it needs to be something different in a big-time type of way, not just like, oh, Kevin Owens is cool again, and we're going to give him some more stuff to do during the television show.
Yeah.
But
so you got other WWE stuff you want to touch on before we jump?
So we hit White Rabbit. We hit the opening promo, Sami Zayn. Another thing from SmackDown last week, and of course we're a week behind because SmackDown's going to air tonight, and there'll be something different. I'm all in on this Maximum Male Models. I wasn't at the beginning. I was like, this is stupid. But they have just... It's stupid, but if you stay with it, you'll get the audience on your side. And that's what they've done with me. Like, the more over the top these two guys can be, the better it's going to be. Now, I don't know what the height of this gimmick looks like. I don't know if it looks like a, you know, World Tag Team Champions or anything like that. But they are just doing consistently funny stuff. The double shoulder tackles, and then they turn away from the camera and then dramatically turn back to the camera. Great stuff. The way they tag with just using their fingers. Like little tiny...
I haven't seen any of that.
Little tiny things or what, you know, we talk about it all the time. It's wrestling's a variety show. You need all kinds of different stuff. Everybody can't be a world champion. Everybody can't and doesn't need to be super serious wrestler, right? You need these comedic elements. And, man, these two dudes are knocking out of the park. It also helps that they look physically intimidating, right? I think the one dude was a former NFL player. So they look like they could, for real, legit kick your ass. But yet they're in mesh T-shirts and super short shorts and they have the hair and they're doing this stuff. So I'm all in on that. And then from Raw from this past Monday, we talk about it being different. They just let Bianca Belair and Io Sky just have like a brilliant 15-minute match where they tore the house down. Bianca Belair is she is a absolute superstar. And everything about her hair is cool. Her gear is cool. Her punches for a woman look absolutely vicious. Like the way she was laying that stuff in on Io Sky.
What are you saying, man?
In the corner. I'm just saying that a lot of times women don't wrestle like that, and
right.
historically haven't wrestled like that. And even for like people like Becky and Charlotte and obviously I'm blanking on a couple other people, but Bailey, the Four Horsewomen, that kind of thing, Asuka, they've really elevated women's wrestling in a way. But like Bianca, I think, is even taking it to another level with just like and it's hard to make punches like that look convincing. She looked like she was legit beating the shit out of Io Sky in the corner with those punches, and like you're just not used to seeing that. And then Io Sky and Damage Control, I'm all in on that group too. I think that's really cool. I think WWE right now is seriously outpacing AEW. Not to say anything that there's anything bad about AEW, and we'll get into some critiques from Grand Slam and Dynamite here in a little bit, but like if you want to give a belt to one of these companies who's putting on the best professional wrestling right now, it is WWE. Like they're making it work. The storylines, the not necessarily the action in the ring, because like we talk about, it's just different styles, but the way these stories and these matches are seemingly meaning more in WWE than they are in AEW. And competition is good. It makes both of these companies better. And then Dexter Lumis, I mean,
still just terrorizing Miz.
And bro, he popped out. He was a fucking statue this week, and he choked him out in a thing. Like it is whoever's doing the Sami Zayn stuff, and whoever came up with this Dexter Lumis gimmick, like just give this person the pencil for literally everything, because these are two things that, like I said, just shouldn't work on paper, that are so compelling and captivating. The Dexter Lumis stuff is straight out of like a B-level horror movie, just with its campiness. But instead of like the camp being a turnoff to you, the campiness of it is what is drawing you in. Like, basically what it was like is somebody had to watch like Halloween and was just like, hey, what if fucking Michael Myers was like a good guy? And what if Jamie Lee Curtis was the bad person that we all wanted to see get hacked to death? Like, what if we just flipped it? Yeah, he popped out of a fucking... he was a hockey statue and then choked out Miz. Like, I don't know where this goes. The dude still hasn't spoken a word. And I don't know much longer they can keep this up. If he pops out of a cake next week, I'm for real going to lose my shit. If there's a damn, like, celebration birthday party and Dexter Lumis pops out of it like Marilyn Monroe, that's the only thing left the only barrier they got to clear is, can he pop out of a food yet? And hell, I've only started watching WWE for a couple weeks, so he might have already popped out of a cake. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are big takeaways. I'm not a fan of Judgment Day. Still, they're like running Monday Night Raw. I will say Monday Night Raw really is lacking from not having a world champion on their program consistently. Because Roman is kind of exclusively to SmackDown. He will show up on Raw every once in a while. But, there was that whole thing a couple weeks ago where, like, the USA Network wants their own champion. So they're kind of in a pickle because they've billed Roman to be this unbeatable heel, and he has both titles. And so how are they going to, extract one of those titles away from him? So they have some booking decisions coming up. But, the Raw is still good, but it definitely needs a world title to kind of anchor that show, I think, that in a way that like SmackDown has. So
Yep.
That's the WWE report. It's I'm in. Like, kudos to them. They've pulled me back in all the way. It's a lot of wrestling to watch every week.
That is a lot of wrestling.
But you can skip a lot of the matches. Like, I don't need as cool as what Braun Strowman and Otis is. I can kind of just fast forward to the finish, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I do with a lot of these matches. Like Bianca and Io Sky, I watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
But for a lot of them, you can just kind of go to the finish and see if anything happens. Because, like I said, there's a distinct WWE style where, nothing too crazy is going to happen on the matches. Whereas in AEW, you don't know what for good and for bad, you don't know what the fuck's going to happen.
Anything could happen.
Anything, yeah. So.
Yeah, so speaking of AEW, last week was Friday night Rampage was this continuation of Grand Slam, and it was a 2-hour show. So there's a bunch of stuff here. We'll probably only really talk about a couple of these and maybe skip a couple, and we'll just see what happens here. So started off the show with Darby Allin and Sting versus Brody King and Buddy Matthews. With Julia Hart was there. And looked like she might have busted her head at one point. She says she's okay. Might have seen the last of Buddy Matthews in AEW.
Who the hell knows?
Yeah, who knows? Because Tony Khan's saying he's not giving anybody a release.
We've talked about dirt sheet stuff and rumor stuff before. I think at this point, I'm kind of just out on all that stuff. I'm just gonna watch the shows. Whoever's there is there, because you don't know. These dirt sheet guys say this is actually one way, then the performers themselves are like this. No, it actually, like the Malachi stuff all came to a head this week, where basically the dude's supposed to be on vacation or like taking some time off, and he's got to hop on Instagram Live and like put all these rumors to bed.
Yeah. And even Buddy Matthews was like, who said I was leaving? He's like, I'm just taking some time off too, like Malachi said he was doing.
So like, I'm just going to like whatever happens. We'll talk if anything big, like for sure, kind of like breaks out. But I would kind of just rather talk about the shows, right? And like what's being put in front of the camera.
Yeah. So the other surprise element, or not the other, but the surprise element of that whole situation in that match was that at the end of it, the Great Muta came out.
Great Muta. This was so fucking cool. It's just, for like people that, here's the thing, for people that know the history between Sting and Muta, like it's a fucking cool ass moment to see these two guys, these two legends actually of professional wrestling, like have a moment inside an American ring again for the first time in whatever, 30 something years. And if you don't know, the cool thing about it is that like you can be like, oh shit, who's this guy? He looks cool.
It's a cool mask.
And then you go on the internet and you read everything that happened, right? And you go on fucking Peacock and try to find, or go on the internet, whatever, and find the matches. Like, all of wrestling should do this more. WWE has not gotten on board with this just yet. Although I think with Triple H now in charge, it'll be better. I do think modern-day wrestlers and modern-day wrestling companies have a responsibility to educate the current-day audience on the history of the art form and the people who have influenced it and got it to where it is today. So that's why you bring a guy like Muta in, who's in the last year of his career, he's going to retire, and you bring him in and you put him in this fucking huge-ass moment at this huge stadium in front of thousands of people and let him have this moment.
Yeah, and if you know, like, Buddy Matthews is fixing to take some time off, let him get hit with the green mist and then...
And also, it's cool for these performers. You don't think Buddy Matthews was fucking ecstatic when they told him, like, hey, here's the finish to the match, by the way. Like, this fucking Japanese wrestling legend who everybody has stolen shit from and has been influenced by is going to miss you. Like, that's the end of it. Like, he'd have to be like, oh, well, fuck yeah. Like, that's pretty awesome, you know? So, I just, we didn't even talk about this. I think it's a month ago at this point. Triple H, his little comment saying that, like, wrestling was in bars and in bingo halls before Vince took it to these arenas and stuff, which is just a blatant lie, if not, just outright propaganda on WWE's part, which is, something that they are prone to do from time to time, to say the least. But, you have to... You need to bring this current day audience along and let them know about the legends of the past and let them know about the history of the art form and the things that have happened. I think that's a cool thing that AEW has really, since their inception, been very good about. I mean, they've brought Steamboat in, they've brought Rock and Roll Express in. Sting obviously is still doing this stuff. Yeah. It was cool to see.
So let's move on because we got a whole bunch to cover. You got any thoughts on Hook and Action Bronson versus Angelo Parker and your boy Daddy Magic.
Daddy Magic and Angelo Parker are the shit. And Action Bronson was fucking cool. And you could tell he was just having the time of his life in there.
Just slinging dudes around.
Bro, he was going hard, too. He was hitting them ropes with, like, some gusto. Like, he was like, if I got fucking... if this is the only match I got, I'm going to make use of it. Yeah. So, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, you know, that was I'm sure it was a one and done for him. Just an excuse to get him in the ring for a little bit, maybe. Could be.
I know we talked about last week, AEW really embracing hip-hop culture. Like, this is, you know...
Yeah.
It's a cool moment.
Yeah. And then next was Jungle Boy and Ray Phoenix. I like that they're showing a little bit of fire with Jungle Boy, or excuse me, with Jack Perry, whatever they're calling him.
Now he is Jungle Boy Jack Perry, by the way.
Okay.
The graphic has changed completely. I noticed that, yes. Good, finally. Well, after we've only been saying it since this podcast has been up.
They could still lose the boy. They could still be Jungle Jack Perry.
I told you I'm not as... If they want to keep the boy, I'm not, you know, Nature Boy Ric Flair.
Sure.
You know, it'll work. We can't get everything we want.
Yeah, but they're giving him a little fire.
Yeah.
You know, I think they're workshopping a little bit. He had an in-studio, or not an in-studio, but a filmed promo that was on Dynamite this week. And I think they're coaching him up a little bit, man. Letting him show some attitude. And maybe get him a little heated for whenever Christian's arm is healed. I figure they'll do a match with him and Luchasaurus sometime between now and then.
Yeah.
Let those guys face off before he gets his hands on Christian.
We got a name change, a name change for Jungle Boy. Can we get a fucking name change for Luchasaurus, please? Can we just figure one out? What's his real name? Just call him his name or something. I don't know. He can't be a monster heel in a black face mask with a name like Luchasaurus. It just can't work. Please do something else.
Yeah. So then Eddie Kingston versus Sammy Guevara. Finally got that match that we were supposed to see a few weeks ago. Sort of a weird ending that you mentioned.
Yeah, this ending had me kind of thrown for a loop. I was like, what is going on? Because, you know, so Eddie Kingston wins by submission. Doesn't let go of the submission. The entire AEW officiating crew comes down. Commentary puts over that Paul Turner is the most senior official. He's the head of the officiating crew. Just reverses the decision, which is odd, to say the least. First of all, completely out of left field. They've literally never done this in AEW whatsoever.
Yeah, what's the point of that?
But, like... Then they allude to this tweet that Tony sent out that was like, the officiating crew needs to tighten up. Like, Paul, you missed some calls last night in the main event. It's just odd because then, like, they introduced that Friday.
Yeah.
Literally didn't follow up at all on Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't make a lot of sense of it either. I mean, I guess we're trying to send a signal about the authority in AEW now with the officiating or whatever, but
like, why?
But why turn over the decision with what happened in the ring?
Why use this moment to do something like
he still won the match? Like you can't take that away from him.
Well, I mean, they did. That's exactly what they did, though. Like, they reversed it and did the loss. Like, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't, like...
But why?
It seems like it's never, like, you would just find the guy.
Yeah.
You wouldn't necessarily reverse the decision.
Take away that dub.
Yeah, it was odd, and it kind of threw me for a loop, and it kind of threw the whole audience for a loop, because they were like, what? Like, what's happening? Like, we get the security and the referees coming out. We've seen that a million times. But then for Justin Roberts to be like, per Paul Turner, the decision has been reversed, and you're like, what the? Okay. That's weird. Like, we just see guys get fined and get suspended. We don't ever see them lose their matches, but yeah, maybe something will come of it. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Moving on, we got the golden ticket battle royale. Kind of forgettable, except for the fact that Hangman gets the dub in that one,
and Bout legitimately got eliminated.
Yeah,
but was able to save it.
Yeah.
That was a cool little moment, but I was definitely like, oh shit, like he's. And we've seen rumbles like that where shit like that has happened, right? Like what's the famous one where was it John Cena and Batista went over the rope at the same time, and they had to they both hit at the same time, but they weren't supposed to, and the referees are like arguing, and then Vince comes down, and that's where he blew out both his quads, and he falls down. Like, there's a lot of shit that can go wrong with these guys getting eliminated. But yeah, so Hangman won. Also, they got a lot of stock in Roosh.
Yeah. Well, they officially signed him, it looks like.
Yeah, so he's officially all elite now.
Yeah.
But, like, he has been and I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I like the guy, and I think that he should be, him and Andrade, if you go check our Twitter account, I fucking have been talking about Andrade here recently just because, like, I want to see a luchador Mexican wrestler stable, like, so bad. You got all these guys, like, and they're doing nothing. But, yeah, they have a lot of stock in Roosh, which is cool to see. I think the dude has a lot of potential. But he's in there with Hangman, who's one of the originals and one of the biggest stars in the company. And they're the last two guys standing. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, they always do. They seem like they have some of the underdogs that hang in on the battle royals whenever they do them.
You know, we saw Roosh and John Moxley when Moxley was champion.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully it's good signs for Andrade. But then, like, you know, well, Wednesday night, there's a damn hurricane, and some of the locker room is not there, and they got all this stuff up in the air, and the dude can't even get on TV for more than 30 seconds. So it's like, you know, whatever. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's a whole different other conversation we'll have eventually, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll get there. So the main event for Grand Slam Rampage was Ricky Starks versus Powerhouse Hobbs in the Lights Out match. Ricky got the dub. We're Team Ricky, and I was happy to see that. I'm not sure it was the match that I really expected or wanted. I feel like they'll get another shot at each other. Maybe. I mean, what do you think?
I think the match was fine. I think the build up to this match really let both of these guys down.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't. There's a scenario where you rewind the clock and you make Starks versus Hobbs really, outside of the main event picture, the most anticipated match on this card because the rivalry is so white hot. They just dropped the ball. And I'm not saying Starks and Hobbs did at all. I think both of those guys did about as well as you could do. I think just the booking around them let them down. I mean, when you have both of these guys barely getting on television after having really the type of betrayal that those two guys had.
Yeah.
I mean, that we talked about that moment. Like, Ricky Starks and Hobbs were on a little bit of a run. Like, one of our podcast episodes was all about Ricky Starks. Like, he was on a hot streak, and then it just kind of the turn happened, and we were like, oh shit, this is gonna be great. And then it just kind of fizzled and went nowhere, which really is at this point it's becoming kind of commonplace for AEW, right? It's like we have these 3-week periods where we're like, holy shit, this show's firing on all cylinders. This is what they should do all the time. And then it usually leads up to a big moment or a big pay-per-view or whatever. And then it just kind of goes, phew, and right back down it goes. Like, we can't be consistent with it where you got the talent and the squad and the kind of real estate here with the expectation that you have from the fans, and you have a little bit more freedom than, WWE has, where you could really make this thing fucking hum and be like, every single week we come in here and we're like, holy shit, like, it's another 2 hours of, did you see Dynamite last night? It was fantastic. Like, and it just doesn't happen. So these guys, I mean, they look like stars, particularly in their entrances, right? Ricky Stark's got the special entrance, and Hobbs coming up through the middle with that kind of stuff. They both look like stars. And it's cool that they main evented, in an episode of Rampage Grand Slam. But they were just really let down by the booking around them, because this could have been something really special to watch.
Yeah. I feel like they may revisit that at some point. I don't know that we're done with that one just yet.
I mean, probably not. We talked about AEW having these natural kind of rivalries, Pac and Orange Cassidy. This is another one that you can just do.
Yeah.
You know, on a random episode of Dynamite, whatever, you can have Starks and Hobbs in the ring facing off against each other.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, like, where do these guys go now?
From here, yeah.
Because neither one was on Dynamite Wednesday.
Well, Starks
Ricky was. Ricky was
Yeah.
in a squash match, but, like, I don't, again, I sound like a fucking broken record at this point. I don't need it. Ricky's main asset is not his wrestling ability.
Yeah.
I don't need to see him beat up jobbers. Why can't we just take that 3-minute match and let him have a microphone and stand in the middle of the ring and deliver a promo?
Yeah.
That's what he's better at. Like, at some point you have to put these people in a position where it's like, what does this person do well? Oh, this person's a really great wrestler. Okay, here's 12 minutes. Go do that. Oh, this person is a really great talker. Okay, we don't really have anything for you. Like, can you give me 3.5 minutes, go out there and say something? Like,
yeah, because we're jumping ahead a little bit. In an episode that was less than stellar for Dynamite, having him in a squash match did nothing to elevate the show.
Where maybe if you give him a microphone and you'd be like, okay, Ricky, like, we don't really know what we're going to do with you yet, but you got 3 minutes. Go over there and talk about how Hobbs is in the rearview mirror and now you're on to greener pastures, however you want to do that for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And you might get a nugget in there. He might think of something on the spot while he's in there.
Yeah.
Boom. Now that becomes the most talked about moment on the show. He's done it before.
I'll beat your ass.
He did the I'll beat your ass. It was 45 seconds. The greatest thing that was on that show that week. Like, it's kind of... It's mind-boggling and also at the same time annoying and also at the same time frustrating because you can just see the potential that this company has. And they really do need a writing team.
Yeah.
We've said this from Jump Street. But, like, if this past week of Dynamite wasn't an indication that this show needs a writing team, I don't know if they'll ever see it.
Yeah, well, let's jump right into that then. For Dynamite this week, like I said just a minute ago, it was a less than stellar episode. We just come off of 4 to 5 weeks of just bangers every Wednesday from Dynamite. It could have been that some of the stars couldn't be there because of the weather. There could have been other issues. Could have been lack of focus or writing. But the crowd was fucking dead. The crowd was not feeling it at all. Really, the only time the crowd got hype at all was in the final match. So you start the show off with Jericho Appreciation Society celebration. And then, Danielson comes out to kind of get Garcia's back because they put that little hat on Garcia and he got fucking mad and was like, I'm not, Yeah. So then then Danielson's there and you finally see Garcia being like, hey, I ain't taking this shit anymore. And I want to have, Danielson in a match against a couple of y'all motherfuckers. But, like, the crowd is just fucking asleep.
Yeah, it was not... Was it that or were they mic'd up, like, not correctly? And I don't know, but like there were weird audio moments during the show.
It could have been that they just didn't have a good mix on it, but like they were sitting just fucking.
They were just kind of sitting, yeah, especially the front. You can usually tell by like the front row.
Yeah.
If the front row standing up, that's usually a good indication. They were kind of Everybody was
just chilling,
sort of sitting down and chilling. I just don't know if they knew what to think of the opening segment. We put on our Twitter a couple weeks ago, like, if AEW gets more hours of programming, what should they do? Overwhelming majority said they should do a Ring of Honor show. Probably for this reason, right? Like, last night was just AEW Dynamite Ring of Honor was all it was.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a terrible thing, but it absolutely does hurt the product in a different kind of way, because you just have these, like, the main thing of the show is a title belt that has 3 letters on it that aren't the 3 letters that's on the top of the Jumbotron with everybody's coming out of.
Yeah, and now you've got one of your bigger stars in Jericho out there disgracing Ring of Honor,
which I like, by the way. I like this angle.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good angle.
This has a lot of legs to it.
Yeah.
But it's like...
Well, it pisses me off as a fan, but it's a good angle. Like, I get why they're doing it.
And there were some fans that were like, oh, you know, the Ring of Honor, they're whatever, like AEW is just playing with it, like, you know, they're desecrating about having Jericho be the champion. First of all, Jericho's one of the top 15 greatest wrestlers of all time. Whatever championship he has, he's going to elevate it just because of his status. And also, like, I was listening to some kind of podcast, a dude who has been watching Ring of Honor since the very start, and he was like, this is the very first angle that Ring of Honor ran, was that Christopher Daniels back in like 2004 was like, I'm not doing the code of honor. I'm going to disrespect this what this wrestling platform has been built on. So, like, this is like the most natural story to have for your intro to the company, right?
That's kind of clever.
Yeah.
Then if it's a callback.
Yeah, and it's a callback, and like, what is it going to look like if we get out of this, like Samoa Joe versus Chris Jericho? That'll be awesome. If we get Chris Jericho versus
Danielson.
You know, and obviously, like, is it going to lead with Danielson toppling him? Is it going to lead with Daniel Garcia toppling Jericho for the title?
Yeah, I mean, I feel that could be the move. And then you got 2 belts on Garcia.
Yeah. And, you know, it's a callback to what they did with Danielson. But, like, yeah, you hope that some kind of TV deal is imminent because you could really be using this space for something that, for a Willie Hobbs, for a Ricky Starks. But you're having to chew up a lot of real estate because one of your biggest performers in AEW has this belt. And so you kind of have to do something with it on this show.
Yeah, this whole segment needed direction. It's like it went on about 4 minutes too long.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, we're going to squeeze in this match with Danielson and Daddy Magic now. And I was like, okay, well.
Which is funny because, like, the whole time I was watching Dynamite Wednesday night, I was like, this feels like 2005 Monday Night Raw, and that's not a good thing. And Monday Night Raw this past week felt a hell of a lot like year one AEW Dynamite, where they're just like, here's fucking Kevin Owens and Johnny Gargano are going to tag. Here's fucking Sami Zayn and AJ Styles. Like, here's all these motherfuckers just wrestling for 12 minutes and tearing the house down. Like, it had a vibrancy and an energy to it that AEW has had in the past. But they for whatever reason, it just didn't happen this week. It was a very stale show.
Yeah, it was weird. So the next up was MJF and Wheeler Yuta promos, which I thought were pretty good, and I think it's going to lead to an interesting first match back for MJF because he hasn't wrestled since he's been back. So
yeah,
I think they're setting this up, and it's going to be a good match. You know, we got a little fire out of Wheeler defending his hometown.
Yeah. I mean, credit to AEW. AEW, in a short amount of time, has gotten over the Acclaimed. They've gotten over Wheeler Yuta. They've gotten over Daniel Garcia. And, you know, a year ago, particularly with Yuta and Garcia, people were like, why is AEW pushing these guys so hard? Like, why is Wheeler Yuta wrestling John Moxley? Why is Daniel Garcia, like, in, like, every fourth main event of Dynamite? It's for this reason. Like, you got to build new stars.
Yeah.
And now you come out there, and now a year later,
Chris Jericho ain't gonna be here forever.
Exactly. And now a year later, Garcia is standing in the ring with Chris Jericho and Bryan Danielson, 2 fucking mega stars. And what's the crowd chanting? They're chanting, "You're a wrestler," to Daniel Garcia. Wheeler Yuta comes out in his hometown. The whole crowd starts chanting Yuta, and they've done it before.
Yep.
And, like, yeah, it was a good fire from Yuta. And, I mean, we know MJF is just golden on the mic. Like,
yeah,
he's can't miss at this point. He is the Ric Flair of his generation. He's the Ric Flair of this company.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there are some people, though, that are critical, and I think this is a fair critique in that they say, like, MJF should just cash in the champ. Like, he should just be the champion right now. Like, if you're going to do all this return and bring him back, he should have just won the belt instantly. And I could see where that's happening. I think they've done a nice, interesting detour here in that we're trying to save some stuff for pay-per-views. So what can we do in the meantime? Oh, let's take Wheeler Yuta, a guy that we have a lot of stock in, and let's see if MJF can't give him a little bit of a rub. And, you know, as we do this Moxley Hangman thing, we try to buy our time till Full Gear. Because Wheeler Yuta standing in the skybox behind MJF was just golden.
I was going to say, let's get to the second part of this, because it wasn't over when you thought it was going to be over, because was it during the Moxley match?
Yeah, it was after. Yeah.
So it was during that match, and what you pointed out, you were like, everybody thinks, oh, well, you run into the back, you're just going to get away from this guy.
Yeah, I love when wrestlers understand how wrestling works, because for so much of wrestling history, if you just made it to the back, you were fine.
You were safe.
Right? Excuse me, nobody ever, the fight didn't keep going. If I was fighting you and we went to the back, very rarely did we ever take a camera back there and show what was happening. Now, sometimes you would do it, but most of the time, they even did it during this thing with Jamie Hayter and Willow Nightingale in this episode of Dynamite. They just run to the back and they just keep running. They disappear, right? So, I love that, Wheeler Yuta was just okay, MJF made it to the back. I want to kick this guy's ass. Oh, he's sitting up in a skybox. I bet I can just walk my ass up to that skybox and probably beat the shit out of him. And that's exactly what he did, right?
Yeah, they did a good job framing that with the camera and stuff.
Or when wrestlers will they do the thing where they're in the middle of the ring and somebody comes down the ramp to do a distraction, but they stop, but the wrestler can hear the crowd and know that somebody's behind them. So they just turn around and cut the bad guy off before he's able to get a blindside shot in. Oh, I know how wrestling works. I can hear the crowd. Somebody's behind me and let me turn around and throw a punch. This was kind of like that. So I like both these guys, Wheeler and MJF. They'll have a good match.
Yeah.
And it's good to see this growth from Yuta too. He's not obviously standing toe-to-toe with MJF on the microphone, because MJF is a one of one,
sure,
right? But he's holding his own. He's not getting knocked out.
Right.
He's going 12 rounds. So that's good. I mean, you need that kind of improvement from these guys for sure.
Yeah. So next up was Jon Moxley versus Juice Robinson. I didn't know anything about Juice Robinson coming into this match. I just know he got crazy eyes and big hair.
Juice Robinson is good, but again, this is not the way. What is cool about his character is not his wrestling ability; it's his promo skills.
Well, and
it's the rock hard Juice Robinson. It's that kind of stuff, the biker gimmick that he's got, and this is just having him wrestle Jon Moxley randomly really doesn't paint him in his best picture.
Yeah, I don't understand why they bring in people like him, and they brought in Mance Warner, and these dudes automatically get Jon Moxley. What's the point unless you're going to sign these dudes? Which now the thing today, too, when this show talked about signing Roosh, apparently Tony's made an offer to Bandito and said that he's interested in signing Juice Robinson as well. So, I mean, but why do you give these dudes shots at your champ immediately?
Yeah, there's that. And even if you're going to do this match, why couldn't Juice come out last week during Grand Slam or something? Or why couldn't we do this match next week and have this week Juice Robinson come out and cut a promo? Because that's where his that's where his skill set is the strongest. Bandito, it makes sense for him to just come in. I don't know anything about Bandito, but holy shit, the moves and the wrestling is awesome, and he gets over that way. That's not Juice Robinson is a fine professional wrestler, but he's not. He ain't doing Spanish flies off the top rope, and he ain't doing these crazy luchador moves. He's got a cool gimmick, and he's got a cool promo, and he's got cool catchphrases, and he's kind of funny. Let him do that before you have a wrestling match. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just kind of weird. And the match itself was fine. Both guys bled again, although it looks like not on purpose. So just we're never. There's a good 95% chance in a Jon Moxley match somebody's bleeding.
Somebody's going to get some color.
Which, again, it looked like this was inadvertent this time because it was in a weird spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll just always happen. But yeah, I mean, the end of this, obviously, you get the showdown between Hangman and Moxley.
And his Dolly Parton shirt, love it.
Yeah, do they do? This is just throwing this out here. Obviously there is a Jon Moxley vacation at some point that is pending, right?
Right.
he got to go fishing at some point.
Yeah. Get him on the boat.
So they have this match. Did Tony say it's October the 18th? Is that when it is in Cincinnati? It's a couple weeks away.
That sounds right.
Do they do a thing where Hangman actually beats Moxley for the title? MJF cashes in, beats Hangman for the title, The firm beats down Moxley and kind of writes him off television so he can go on vacation. And then we get an MJF versus Hangman little feud to then save MJF versus Moxley for at some point down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be good with that.
Otherwise, I'm not really sure why you have Hangman win this battle. Why you even do a battle royal in the first place? Because they didn't do it at last year at Grand Slam, did they?
I don't think so.
So they just made up this golden ticket thing. I don't really know why you just wouldn't do that, right? Or unless you shouldn't. You would just let it be MJF and Moxley. Unless it's a way to write Moxley off television faster.
They need a writer.
Or it could be that. We just don't know what we're doing. But, I mean, that would be... Because then you have Moxley and MJF in your back pocket that you can just, at any time, you can play that card. And put these two dudes in a ring for a month and let them cut promos on each other, and it'll be the best thing on television.
Yeah.
But, I don't know why... where's Hangman... Unless this is literally just a fuck you to CM Punk, which I guess it could be.
I mean, it could be.
Be like, hey, you call this dude a dumb fuck, but, we still think he's one of our biggest stars, and
he is.
Here he is in the ring, yeah.
He still gets a pop.
And they've done nothing. They've completely neutered that Hangman character. They've done nothing with him.
Yeah.
I mean, he won at Grand Slam, obviously, but, before that, what was he doing? Really nothing.
Yeah. So in another instance of the crowd being fucking dead, Saraya comes out, does a promo.
First of all, we didn't even get her name right when she debuted.
Saraya.
That's a Excalibur called her Saraya, which is not right.
I thought it was Saraya. I thought she said my name is Saraya.
What did Excalibur say?
Saraya.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, and that's what we said.
Yeah.
So it's Saraya.
Correct.
And so they had to redub her little thing so that they could play it and use it in a video package where Excalibur doesn't fuck it up.
Yeah.
Oh boy, amateur. I get they want to keep it a surprise, but could somebody not first of all ask her how do you say the name, and then hey Excalibur, here's how you say the name.
Here's a pronunciation guide.
Why don't you keep this in your back pocket? Wink, wink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you don't have a huge moment just get fucked up where you can they literally can't use that moment.
Yeah, because she had to take a second and be like, hey, this is how you pronounce my name.
Yeah.
But the crowd wasn't into it at all. And part of me was like, well, is it her or is it the crowd? But then I was like, well, the crowd was fucking dead through the whole show.
Yeah.
Until the very end. And at this point, it hadn't been the very end yet. And then they had this match with Tony Storm and Serena Deeb, which I don't even remember how.
Well, wait a second. The promo was weird. First of all, it was bad.
Yeah.
Absolutely bad. Whether you want to call it rust, whatever. But
she's also coming from a company where she was always scripted. So is it part of maybe it's going to take some work for her to come in and.
It could be that. But again, we talk about all the time, right? These competitors should have one singular focus, and that is to become the champion. I'm confused as to why she doesn't feel like a wrestler. She feels like a general manager.
And they haven't made it clear.
If she's going to wrestle, why would she not be like, hey, Tony, you're great, but this is my place now, and I want that belt, so we're going to do it in 3 weeks or whatever.
I mean, yeah, it looks like she's putting together a little stable with Tony, right, and a handful of others, but they've given no indication that she'll wrestle other than some of the dirt sheets have said that her contract numbers imply that some wrestling would be involved.
Right.
They're paying her a salary for somebody that wrestles and somebody's that's not just a general manager. But
I think part of the reason why the crowd was dead too was just because they're confused by all this. They're like, wait, are you if you're wrestling, why are you not fighting some of these women?
Yeah.
Because now we've had 2 weeks where she's had no physical contact whatsoever. She wasn't even in the lumberjack match. She went up to commentary. And first of all, her promo was straight dog shit.
Yeah.
Everything about it was awful.
Your name rhymes with
yeah.
Shit. And they bleeped it.
And they bleeped it, yeah. And even
dropped it.
First of all, you have Britt Baker come out. She does an okay promo. I mean, It was fine. The whole segment was dog shit. Yet again, you got Toni Storm, you got Saraya, you got Britt Baker, you got all these women, and who is the crowd chanting for? Jamie Hayter. Like, it's right. I don't know what is the fucking hesitation. What are we doing? It is right there. Just do it. Just help this girl out. What do you want her to do? Like, she got the whole crowd over on her side, and she's done nothing on television but just be the best women's wrestler in the division.
So why have they not turned her on Britt yet? Like,
I don't know.
What are they doing?
I'm floored by what the hesitation is.
Because you pointed this out a few weeks ago, and I noticed it the other night. When she's the only one of that group, when there's 4 of them standing there, that doesn't do the DMD hand gesture.
There are some things that you should slow play, right? Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn, perfect example. The crowd chanting for Sami, they love him, but you're not going to do the turn yet because you got something in your back pocket where you're like, my God, we got this story, and when we do it, it's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. I highly doubt AEW has anything like that whatsoever for Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter, so just do it already. Like, you could have had a thing where all the babyface women come down into the ring with Saraya, fucking Britt and her heels come out. You have Jamie Hayter comes out by herself. Also, why was there no Jade Cargill? Why did she not come down? Is she just in her? Is she
just
taking
in her own little world?
So she's taking basically Cody Rhodes' spot, where he was in his own little universe and the rest of the show happened. Now that's just gone over to Jade.
Yeah,
because like Jade had a feud with Diamante, who we haven't seen on TV for months,
like a year,
but a long time. She just has a random title match with her. And then we bring out all the women on Dynamite, and we're talking about this women's revolution, and like one of our main champions isn't even on the show. Kind of odd. Again, this show needs writers. But like, the crowd is telling you what they want you to do.
Yeah.
Just do that. Like, hey, well, I guess, yeah, let's just do Jamie Hayter versus Britt Baker. Like, you can do more than one women's angle at a time.
Sure.
It's not illegal. You know, you can do it.
You got 2 shows.
You got 2 shows. You got 3 hours of programming a week. Like,
they only really ever do 1 women's match per show anyway, right?
Yeah, but you can. That doesn't mean there can only be one women's story.
You could do 2 angles per Dynamite, if not more.
Whatever.
They're good,
we're gonna get derailed on me talking about why Jamie Hayter's fantastic. But like, I mean, everybody sees at this point. Everybody sees it.
Yeah.
Again, there's no reason to slow play this. Just turn out and do it. But yeah, the promo was awful. But the match, Toni Storm and Serena Deeb was really good. Again, the crowd wasn't into it until the finish, the Avalanche Power Driver. They got into it. But we've talked about how underutilized Serena Deeb is, and this is the perfect way to utilize her. Like, let her have a competitive match against Toni Storm. You put Toni Storm over as a champion. She's a fighting champion. Here are all these challengers. She's going to take them on. She's going to do whatever it takes to win. She's going to do an Avalanche Power Driver, pull something out of her back pocket. Like, it's just great stuff. So, but yeah, the Saraya stuff is we have to figure out something. I think the crowd is
some work to do there.
The crowd's just confused because they don't know if she's going to wrestle. Because if she can't wrestle,
then they need to draw a clear line. Yeah,
and even if she can wrestle, you need to have in storyline somebody be like, she's not medically cleared yet, and so that way you have that expectation. Then she can say at some point down the line when she gets in a feud, to hell with it, I'll do a lights out match. I'm gonna fight this person.
Yeah.
Something. Right now she's doing nothing.
I mean, I think the move is you say on TV that she's not medically cleared, but then when she knows that she's cleared or whatever, then somebody could pop off and hit her, and then it's like, oh shit, you know.
Yeah, she's not medically cleared.
That becomes a thing, right?
Boom, boom. Yeah, she's not medically cleared. A heel comes up from behind her and hits her in the back of the neck. Boom, instant heat. Like,
right. Then
something
she's gotta
like
fight.
that. Yeah, and then she has to fight. Like, this is, and if she isn't like in real life not medically cleared, why the hell would you bring her in now?
Yeah.
Why not wait?
Yeah. I mean, will she ever be cleared? Really?
Well, I mean, you have to hope. You got to hope so, right?
At some point, yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know.
I mean, I would think she is now if they brought her in, because if not, then what are they doing?
Otherwise, if you wanted to bring her in, I think she's still an asset. But the way you bring her in is like Tony does a little video announcement, and like he did a couple weeks ago he had to vacate the titles, and you're like, hey, Dynamite needs some more authority. I need another right-hand person.
True.
Next week, we're going to debut Dynamite's first ever general manager, and it's her.
Yeah.
You know.
So the last match of the night, we've already kind of mentioned it. Bandito versus Jericho. I didn't know shit about Bandito, and this was exactly what you said. You just bring this guy out to tear the house down.
Yeah.
And finally got the crowd into it. I mean, there were a lot of really good spots there near the end. Jericho doing his thing with trying to take off the luchador mask and disgracing him and all that. A couple of those top rope spots.
He's just insane.
Just awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
Really
great
good.
all the way around. You would think these luchadors at this point, they got to look into like some mask technology, right? Like every other match, somebody is like either trying to take it off or pulling it down in front of their eyes or something. You think at some point people would be like, "Hey, why don't I just like tie it up a little tighter or something like that?" But yeah, Bandito's awesome. Like that's how you bring that guy in. You bring him in. You have Tony Schiavone hype him up at the beginning of the show, and then at the end you just have him get all this shit in, right? Kudos to Jericho for giving him that much offense. Yeah. Well, like, for Jericho being like, yeah, I'll take the top rope stuff, and I'll take a hurricane on the floor. Like, yeah, I'm game for it. Let's do it, you know?
So let's wrap that part up and get to our Twitter prompt of the week. What's the best wrestling entrance song? This was one that you wanted to talk about. You give me yours first, and I'll pull up a couple of these answers.
So while you're pulling it up, unless somebody has come in late with the correct answer, I'm disappointed in our listening audience, and we got to educate these people better.
Do you want me to read all of these?
Yeah, read them
and
off.
Then at the end you say wrong. The answer is
Yes.
like you did me today in the car. We had to drive for a few hours, and Patrick would be like, What do you think is so and so's best song?" And I would name a song. And he would go, "Wrong, it's this." And then that happened 2 or 3 different times.
So read off these things, and then I will give everybody the correct answer.
All right. So the first response was Blue Gillen, faithful listener of the show. We appreciate you. Shout out. He says, "Currently, I got to go with Chris Jericho and Judas by Foxy."
Oh, my God.
Fozzy. So why did I say Foxy? I'm tired, y'all, by Fozzy. Overall, I would pick Stone Cold. And that shattering glass, such a great way to announce him and perfectly aligned with his character.
So the Stone Cold, obviously, you're not going to get any pushback from me whatsoever. Great glass shattering. It is so iconic. My man, Blue. That Fozzy song, the Judas is awful. It's an awful song, right? I thought we were being ironic when we were singing it. Do people actually like the song?
I think people like it.
I ain't trying to be a dick in people's music taste or whatever, but it's not a good song, right? Am I the asshole here?
Would I listen to it on a playlist? No. Do I have fun and sing along sometimes in my living room when I'm about 2 or 3 bourbons deep watching a show? Yeah. I do.
So people really like it. All right.
I'm my bad, guys. I don't like it. I think it's fun.
I think it's like a fun thing, but I thought we were all like in on the joke. It's like, ha, it's not.
I mean, it's kind of an ironic thing for me. Yeah. It's not like you're not gonna catch me singing my lungs out at the.
It's a cool now. It is a cool dynamic, like having the crowd sing along to it.
Yeah,
but like it ain't even AEW's best theme,
right?
You know.
Yeah.
But hey, everybody's different.
So Chase Gilmer says Metalingus by Alter Bridge.
On this day, I see clearly. Yeah, that one's fucking badass. That one hits me right back in my feels from my fucking childhood. Yeah, that one's always going to be over.
He's got a gif with Edge.
Yeah,
it's pretty fucking badass.
Edge is so damn cool. I'm glad he's had this second run in his career coming back from the neck injury and he's on television again, but like he kind of gets lost in the shuffle because that era was just dominated completely by John Cena. But Edge, man, was fucking badass.
Yeah, I really didn't know shit about him until he came back. Was it a couple years ago? Came back in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah. And
people lost their damn minds.
Yeah, because he was one of the guys that was like, would sometimes get a win over John Cena. Edge was a champion in there for a little bit. Cena really had kind of like a Hogan-esque run where it was just like, LOL Cena became the fucking meme of that time because he just always won. But like Edge was one of the guys that kind of broke through, along with like Batista and some of those other guys like that. So yeah, that's a classic one for sure.
So the Jeff says Heartbreak Kid, Stone Cold, all of Bray Wyatt's, and $1 Million Man on the ground of most fitting for the character.
Yeah, the Bray Wyatt ones especially, like they fit the character. The Shawn Michaels one too is just a sexy boy. Sexy boy. I mean, that's, again, they're like classic themes, One of the things that all this what makes a good wrestling entrance song? One, I think it needs to fit the character. But two, there is also like a formula to it. If you go list like all the great wrestling entrance songs, either have one of two things. They either have something like the glass shattering effect, where it happens. Stone Cold has it. The Rock, If You Smell, as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh shit, and the crowd gets up. Or it has like a little bit of a lull at the beginning, and about 5 to 8 seconds in, it kicks up, and then that's when usually a wrestler walks out, and all the shit goes off like that. Yeah. Like, I'm trying to think what would be an example of that one. Well, the Edge one is a good example. Yeah. You think you know me, dun, 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 on this day, and then that's when he's out and the fucking shit's going off. You know what I mean? Like, so that's cool stuff.
So Jeremy Satcher says, watching WWE around the early 2010s, parentheses, a dreadful period, don't recommend. I took some solace in yelling, "It's a shameful thing, lobster head," during the opening of the music Sheamus had at that time. Not especially great or even character fitting, but it stands out to me even now.
That's a funny little story. Everybody's got little things like that,
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So Blaine Duncan, head of the Alabama Take website, says Hollywood Hulk's use of Voodoo Child's slight return always did it for me. I love the Undertaker's music, albeit not quite a song.
Taker's music is iconic, obviously.
Yeah.
The Voodoo Child Hollywood Hulk Hogan thing was badass because he would come out playing the guitar.
I never actually saw that one.
Oh man, I haven't got to that point in WCW yet. I'm interested to see if the Peacock version will have the Jimi Hendrix entrance for Hulk Hogan when he turns heel. I'm a couple months away watching at that point. But yeah, he would come out to Voodoo Child and fucking play the title like a guitar and shit. It's cool whenever they license music like that. Yeah. Like Orange Cassidy right now has a really cool one that fits his character from, was it Jefferson Starship?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
at Riggs Stevenson says the Bushwhackers Titantron entrance video featuring Walkabout.
So we've had 2 Bushwhacker entrances now or entries for our last 2 questions. That's your time. That's way before my time. The Bushwhackers were in the 80s, so I did not know the Bushwhackers were that popular.
Bushwhackers were a thing when I was a kid.
The only Bushwhackers thing I know, and I told you this when I saw the tweet, was it's the clip where one of them comes walking down for the Royal Rumble, doing the little elbow thing. He gets in the ring, somebody turns him around, throws him over the top rope, he lands and walks that way straight to the bag in all of like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only Bushwhackers thing I know.
And then Riggs follows that up by saying, and I'm with Blaine on the Undertaker's entrance to variations on Chopin's, is it Chopin? Is that how you say it? I don't remember.
We're
Piano
not that smart.
Sonata at number 2 in B flat minor.
That's Blaine and his, he's an English teacher, so he's smarter than both of us combined. So
I think that's all the answers on that one. You've tweeted out some other things since then that have gotten some responses. So I haven't touched on the music yet. Obviously, you got to go with Stone Cold. And don't laugh at me, but I liked Cody's entrance music. And then I really like Ricky Stark's music too.
I was about to say, so let's talk about some current ones. Orange Cassidy has a cool one in AEW.
Yeah.
Ricky Starks, I think, is the best in AEW.
Yeah.
Kenny Omega is cool too.
Yeah, I don't know about Kenny's. I think the Young Bucks music is pretty stupid.
It fits them though.
It fits, but I don't like it. But yeah, I love Ricky Stark's entrance music.
In WWE, the Imperium entrance, the music is with the fucking white and it's perfect.
since I haven't seen Roman wrestle in a while, I saw Mania this year, but I don't remember the music. And I don't think the music is the same. Whatever music he was using several years ago was like real slow and brooding, like dun.
Yeah, that's the old Shield stuff. So he's done with all that stuff.
Okay,
yeah, he's got a new badass.
No, that music
now.
was fucking badass.
Oh, you like the Shield? Yeah, the Shield was good, but like it didn't. At some point, it does kind of get a little bit old and repetitive.
Yeah,
but he has new entrance music now. I think his new entrance music is better.
I liked Moxley's music. I wish that he would go back to it and not use the Wild Thing anymore.
I don't know, the Wild Thing. I told you, when that crowd all says Wild Thing in unison, that's something cool.
But that guitar dive bomb, that that shit was badass.
I'm trying to think who else in WWE do I like. AJ Styles has some cool music.
Yeah,
I think it's still the same from what it was a while ago. Going back to some classics. The Randy Orton, I Hear Voices in My Head, perfect. There was that era where like they started licensing like songs or like having bands do it, and it was just great. DX stuff, the Attitude Era, Are You Ready? Yeah, break it down. I mean, that's iconic stuff. There's one correct answer to this, though, guys.
Tell us where we went wrong. Put it
is 3-6 Mafia. Theme for Mark Henry. Somebody gonna get their ass kicked. That's the best. What are we doing? Somebody gonna get their ass kicked. Somebody gonna get their wig split. Beat him up. Break his neck. That's the best one. I'm so disappointed. Nobody said that.
Yeah, y'all really let Patrick down. We were driving this morning, and he was like, "Okay, here's my number one song."
3-6 Mafia. That's it.
Yeah, y'all do better.
Do better, guys. Or maybe it's our fault for not bringing the audience along with us. Well, I'll put the onus on me. We have failed as a podcast to educate these people on some of the finer points of professional wrestling, like how 3-6 Mafia's song for Mark Henry is the greatest wrestling theme song of all time. Also, you could say most underrated because nobody talks about it, obviously, right?
Not in our small, meager following.
I mean, Stone Cold won probably. If we're being completely objective here, and I'm taking my own personal taste out of it, the Stone Cold Shattering Glass is yeah. I mean, people put that shit in like TikTok videos, so that just shows you how over that is. Or like The Rock's, like If You Smell.
Yeah.
Nobody said Triple H. Like that song's great.
Didn't he use Ace of Spades at one point? Or was that somebody else?
He did use Ace of Spades for a little bit, yeah. But then I am a game, you know how to play it. Entrance songs are important, though. I'm probably going to write about this in more detail, though. I'm working on a series right now where I'm kind of talking about different things in professional wrestling. I'm working on the first installment now, so hopefully you guys will be able to read it in like a week or two. But like an entrance song and a wrestler's entrance really does tell you a lot about them. First of all, it tells you how much stock the company puts in them. Because if you come back for commercial break and you don't even see that wrestler's entrance, like that's how you know that person's a jobber.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I didn't see him come out. They ain't got no music. This person's about to get the hell bit out of him.
Yeah.
Or this company doesn't care about him, whatever. Well, like, if you get him, usually the last sort of piece for somebody really ascending to like superstar status.
Let's get a new song.
Is that new song or that new entrance?
Wardlow, because you saw Wardlow get new music.
Wardlow got new music. Like, Goldberg wasn't doing the security guard knocking on the door when he first started. That came later because they were like, we're going to build this dude into a star. Like, we're going to give him something that nobody else is doing right now. That really is a big part of it because it's that first impression when you walk out that tunnel. You got 2 seconds to really showcase the audience if you're a star or not. And the production around it really helps you a lot. So...
yeah.
It is for as much as we like to debate, what's the best. It is really important to have like something that solidifies you as a superstar,
and not just stock music from licensed royalty free music like the Hardys.
Yeah. Although the Hardys thing, with them, it was the music, but like it was also their dress and the weird neon lights and shit, like, and everybody does the little hand gesture. You got to have something.
Yeah.
You have to, and really when you talk about, when people, and especially when kids, mimic wrestlers, a lot of the times what they mimic
It's the music.
is the entrance and the finishing move. You know, there's a dude from Nigeria that's gone viral, and all he does is just recreate wrestlers' entrances. Like, that is a big part of it. You know?
A lot of times when I'm watching AEW with my son, Darby Allin's music hits, and we'll just go, I furl. Because that's the only part I remember of that.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything
Yeah.
else.
I think AEW, that'll be the next step of them really perfecting sort of the entrances. And not even just that, how the camera shoots it, right?
Yeah,
how you do camera movements.
I feel like it used to be a bigger thing, and now, like, because everybody had like moves and shit in their intros, and now it's just all like their name with some flashy graphics because like
or some pyro. You get a little bit of pyro.
Yeah, but like now there's none of that. Like they stripped all of the moves out of, like, Jericho had a big entrance that he used to do, like a big video. I do like that Orange Cassidy's is just like a white card with like black scribble on it.
Yeah.
It says Orange Cassidy, and it's like, put a cool move here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great stuff.
Love it.
Kevin Owens has a great one. His entrance right now in WWE is really awesome. And they've done it for the past couple weeks. And AEW has kind of done it with Wardlow, but I think they've shied away from going all the way with it just because I think some of their ticket sales might not be as great. Well, like WWE's pretty much running in front of sold-out houses every single night. But the camera starts behind the wrestler and behind Kevin Owens as he walks out on the ramp. So the first shot you see is his hip behind him is from his back and like all the people right there. And then the camera kind of comes around I think really we haven't unlocked that element of like how do you broadcast wrestling and what's a cool way to do it with like longer takes and longer shots and maybe not so much like herky-jerky cutting. I think there's room here, and really for AEW, I think they can be the ones that kind of can play on this and expand on it. How do we shoot this in a different way to where we just look different from everybody else that's ever done pro wrestling in America?
I mean, Cody had a pretty significant entrance.
Yeah.
He had the biggest one in AEW.
Yeah.
He's the only one that ever got to really come up in the center.
Yeah. But like even watching Monday Night Raw this past week, Sami Zayn and AJ Styles had a match, and AJ Styles got thrown over the barricade, and the ref is doing the countdown, and he gets to 8, and the camera's behind AJ, and the camera just follows AJ as he rushes in and tries to beat the count. And just that little moment of like those 3 or 4 seconds, you're like, oh man, that was really cool, because we've never really seen the camera kind of follow the wrestler like that as it goes all the way through, So it's just, again, it's minor. It seems like minor things, right?
Yeah.
But in totality, when you add this stuff up together, you really can make an imprint not only on how your product is shown, but how your audience perceives your product to be, whether you're trying something different, So there's a lot of room to play there, I think.
So there's some good answers this week. We appreciate y'all, but you got to do better. Don't let Patrick down next week. don't. I got to work with this man.
Just
don't let him down, y'all.
We have to, and spread the gospel of how awesome. Just go, if you're listening right now, when you get done with this podcast, look it up. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Music. 3-6 Mafias, Mark Henry, entrance music. Just go listen to it. It's awesome.
Yeah. And so let's sign off unless you got any final thoughts for the week. It's been a long week. I'm tired.
Long week.
Let's wrap it up. Y'all follow us on Instagram and Twitter if you don't already, at Alabama Slam Pod. If you want to follow our network of other podcasts and writers, follow the Alabama Take, alabamatake.com, or on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any of the socials. We've got other podcasts. We've got Check Your Shelf, a monthly book podcast hosted by my lovely bride, Jamie. Taking on Sports with TD Wood is out. It's a weekly sports podcast. Taking It Down, pop culture podcast weekly with Blaine Duncan. Handful of fellas and ladies involved with that. They talk about TV and movie and music, etc. And my new Star Wars podcast with a couple of my buddies, my best friends. It's called We Are a Star War. That's out now on all podcast platforms and apps and things. Go check it out. And review us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever it's called these days. We'd really appreciate that. And we'll see y'all next week. Hopefully we'll have another good week of wrestling. I say good, even though this week was a little lackluster from Dynamite.
Not from WWE, though. Are we going to become a WWE podcast? I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see.
If it keeps happening.
Y'all
Roman
holler at
versus
us.
Sammy. That's the main event. Let's get the word out. Make it
Honorary
happen.
Uce, baby.
Honorary Uce.